show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Bubbles and Flames podcast. Wanted to say hello to everybody who is watching the live stream, as well as welcome back to those who are going to watch us on the replay. Tonight, what we're going to be talking about is if you had the option to start a business or start your business over again today, what advice would you give to new businesses or new makers? And also, what we're going to talk about, we're going to do a review of the last 4 episodes because this is episode number 5. So, with that being said, while we allow people to join in the audience, uh, if you're not aware, we also have a community group that is on Facebook, and it's called the Bubbles and Flames Community Group. And go ahead and take this moment to sign up. Hello, Courtney. Thank you for coming on in. Take this moment to sign up where we can keep the conversation going in the Facebook group. All right. Also, if you haven't taken a moment to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe on the YouTube channel. There's also notices all over TikTok, all over Instagram, and also on Facebook. So I appreciate Miss Courtney coming back. Courtney is one of my regulars, and she is the owner and founder of Love You Bunches Candle Co. And Courtney, I hope that I got that right. What I was talking about was just basically giving an overview since we are on episode number 5. And I wanted to give a review of what we've talked about previously. So while I'm doing that, Courtney, go ahead and get your tips together. Courtney is one of my mods and she keeps an eye in the chat. So if you all see me talking to her, you all will be able to see her comments as well as this one is up on the screen. All right, a little bit about myself for those of you that don't know me. My name is Tina, and I am the owner and founder of Nuts About Candles Company. And what we specialize in are non traditional candles, such as glitter, botanicals, and I also just started a line of marble candles. So when you get a second, check us out. And that is me, and that is who I am. And Courtney says she is still learning herself. We all are learning, Courtney. Everybody. Doesn't matter how long you've had your business, we all can learn something new. So let me give you a quick recap of what we talked about previously, and then I will take some questions from Miss Courtney if she has any questions. But also, a couple people that I wanted to shout out before I get started for supporting the channel. Along with Courtney, there are other moderators who unfortunately are not able to make it, and one of them is Robert, who was one of my impromptu guests last week, and he is the owner of Dapper Guru. He is actually out tonight doing some business, and actually he might join us later, but he messaged me to say he might not be able to make it. But Robert, when you watch the replay, I appreciate you coming up on stage last week. Also, this young lady is not in there, but Smell Good Spa, check her out. She's also on Amazon, and she is on Instagram. All right, she's been a big supporter to me, both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Also, Courtney, what's good going on with you for this week before we get into our topic of the evening? And I always have to wait for Courtney to respond. because she is down in the chat. So I'll come back to Courtney and do a quick overview of what we've talked about previously. All right. So the first episode was just an intro episode, kind of get you used to me being on YouTube, who I am as a maker, and how I am able to be in front of you. And most importantly, what prompted me to start this podcast. One thing that I noticed in the maker community, we have soap makers who have podcasts, we have candle makers who have podcasts, but there is no other, to my knowledge, as of right now, candle and soap maker podcast. So that prompted me to think about starting a podcast. But in topic, we used to do this on Clubhouse once a week in this very same time slot on Wednesdays. So if you hear us in the future say we came from Clubhouse to the penthouse, which is YouTube, that's what we mean. We had a good following over there, so we decided to bring it to a much bigger platform and open it up to everyone in the world. So if you're watching the recap, again, that's a little bit about me. In episode 2, we talked about inside the mind of a maker. We have a very unique mindset, and we have to always keep resetting our mindset to stay encouraged. As an entrepreneur, and definitely as a maker, a lot of us also have 9 to 5s. We have families, we have children, and we have a lot of other things that we are constantly getting pulled back and forth. And we have to constantly readjust our goals because business changes based upon the season for a lot of makers. We also have some seasonal makers that only do production during seasonal events. We have a huge one coming up, which is Mother's Day. And we'll talk a little bit about Mother's Day later on this broadcast. So, just some of those things that we talked about and the different mindsets that you may have throughout different seasons of the year. In episode number 3, we talked about and we kicked off our official series of becoming an entrepreneur. What makes you want to do this? Where do you fall in this entrepreneur warehouse? Do you want to stay a hobbyist? Is this just fun for you? Are you going from a hobbyist to an entrepreneur? Or are you brand new and you're not sure what it is that you want to do? Or are you the other extreme where you're a maker, that you started a business? Some of you have been in the business several times for a while. Excuse me, I just lost my train of thought really quick. Some of you have been in the business for a while and maybe you want to restructure or you're going through a rebranding. All right, so that's what we talked about in episode 3 and how important it is to research your products as well as testing. It is essential to do your product research as well as ongoing testing throughout the time that you have your business open, because we actually never stop researching products because we always want to bring and introduce new things to our group of customers, because my group of customers is different from Courtney's is different from Jayla's is different from Loso. And again, the people that I'm referring to are people that you've become familiar with if you're following along on this journey. On episode number 4, we talked about how important it is that you choose the perfect wax or the perfect soap base. And we got into some of the different types of waxes and soap bases that might work for you, but might not work for me. So, again, always do your testing and your product research as you develop and try out new products. Also, another recommendation that I have is get you a user testing group and they'll give you brutal feedback. It sometimes it hurts, but it always helps you grow as a maker, and they can become some of your best customers because they've been on this journey with you. All right. I want to take a second and welcome in Jayla. Uh, Jayla, I hope that you had an awesome week this week. And Jayla is actually down there talking to Courtney right now, and she's saying hello to everybody in the chat. All right, so let's dive in now that I have 2 of my wing women actually in the chat. Let's dive in this week. What our topic is going to be is, if you had the choice to start your business today, what would you do over? What would you do different? And what advice would you give to new makers thinking about jumping into this world of business? All right. And I'm going to start with Courtney's comment. I know she probably thought I didn't see it, but I did. And her comment is, to kick it off, I would have definitely done more research. And I added the word definitely to Courtney's comment because I agree with her. All right. I went out, and I'll kick it off first, or next rather. I went out and I bought a whole bunch of containers. I bought a whole bunch of wax because I was not sure what type of candles I wanted to make. And what I mean by that is, and we're also going to cover this in a future episode, and I'll talk about it a little bit now, and then I'll ask Jayla for her answer. What type of candles do I want to make? Do I want to make beeswax, soy wax, paraffin, a blend? Like, I ended up landing on cocoa soy, which also goes by coconut soy. There's several types of coconut soy wax out there. That's just the kind that works for me. However, I do have some customers that I use a soy wax blend. So again, you've got to have different go-to waxes for different things. And I also for the three of us, I can speak on this. We ran into a wax shortage, so a lot of us had to pivot during COVID and during the pandemic because coconut wax was short at one time, soy wax was short at one time, and then also the big boy, which is EC26 or coconut apricot wax, was also short. So you learn with the ebbs and flows of business, you've got to be able to pivot. All right. So I'm going to ask Jayla, what are some of the things that if you were able to do your business over or start it today, what are some of the things that you would have done or do different? And I'm going to give her time to respond as well. Oh, okay. There she goes. So I agree. Jayla gave us a good answer as well. All right. And she says, I would have niched down better in the beginning instead of trying to market to several niches. And I definitely agree. And let's welcome Rose to the chat. Hello, Rose. Thank you for coming back. What we're talking about tonight, I just did a quick overview of all the other episodes. And what we're talking about tonight is if you started a business today, if you started a business or your business again today, what would you do different? Or if you don't have anything you would do different, what would you do? I'm sorry, what advice would you give to new makers? All right. So while Rose is getting herself, giving her thoughts together, see, this is live, so I can't edit that stuff out. But while Rose is getting herself together and thinking about my question to her, we'll give Jayla and Courtney, here's the next coming question for you. What advice would you give to new makers since both of you had a chance to say what you would do over? And for me, I would definitely do more testing since I pivoted and went a whole different direction and got into some of the non traditional elements. And what I consider, or really what the definition of non traditional is anything that is not a plain white candle. So, myself, and I can speak for Jayla on this as well, we do what's called non traditional candles. There's glitter, there's crystals, there are things that are not in the natural candle. So, of course, it's considered controversial. We hear it all the time, we're used to it. I will state this, and I tell makers this all the time: your candles are your candles, my candles are my candles. We had the insurance discussion briefly. There are different rules and regulations in different states and also different countries. If you're watching us outside of the United States, please find what works for you, and then also act accordingly in terms of the regulations and requirements for your state. All right. So I will say that that is a very controversial subject, which we might have that debate one day. We'll see. All right. Going back to Rose, and Rose, I appreciate it. She said, I would have had a business to business and business to consumer line running at the same time. I love it. I love it. Wholesale and private label are two huge discussions that new makers like to jump into. I'm going to piggyback on Rose for a second. And what I will say is make sure that you perfect your product before you jump out there getting into private label and wholesaling. Test again, and do your product research. It is essential. You have plenty of time to get out there doing wholesaling and private labeling, because that private labeling, that customer is putting their name on your product. Their customers don't know that somebody else made it. And I'm going to leave that there. Make sure you are putting out your best product at all times. All right, that's an excellent one, Rose. Let me switch over to Miss Jayla. She said, I would say make candles first because you love to do so, and work on not sending negative energy out to others. Yes, yes. You are putting your energy in the candle, so be careful what you pass on. And candles, and Jayla is so right about that. I don't make candles if I'm not in a good mood. I don't, because you are definitely passing energy, and you always want your energy to be positive, full of love, because we put a lot of time into these candles. That is, if your candles are handmade. So I'm speaking for everyone that is currently in the room. All right. Courtney also put up an excellent comment: to find your own space. It's enough room for all of us, but do not try to conform to what everyone else is doing. Again, another excellent tip. We have a lot of people who follow the trends, and then they go down that rabbit hole. And once the trend has passed, they're stuck because they don't know what to do. And the other point of what she brought up, we all have different customers. Like I said earlier, we all have different customer bases, and everyone that is in the chat is also supported by each other. I buy from other candle makers, and they buy from me. And we also do collabs occasionally as well. So keep your eyes out. And I'm going to take that opportunity while I'm switching over to Rose's comment here to say, keep an eye on this channel. I gave a hint last week that I'm going to be doing a contest. I decided to pull it back for a second because I want to make it bigger. Why do I want to make it bigger? Because we have a celebratory moment here, which is we have had our first 100 views on this channel. So I appreciate that, and I look for it to grow from there. And also our follower base is growing as well. So I wanted to add something different. In addition to what I was going to do the contest for, I want to add a little something special in there for you all, getting me to 100 viewers. So I will be posting more on the contest soon. Also, while I'm still on my commercial break, I mentioned that if you all wanted your products featured on this channel, just reach out to me and I will start doing the YouTube shorts on your products. You'll also start to see all of my moderators. Their products will start to be on the channel, and you can put yours out there as well. It's great exposure, and especially as I grow the channel, you never know who's watching. Ladies, thank you for putting that out there. I saw the comments coming up and I tried not to smile. But yes, I have a service that helps me in the background. I'm still learning YouTube, being very transparent about that. So the little milestones, it sends me like these little certificates, and I was really happy about the 100 views. So ladies that are in the chat, I appreciate that. All right. So with that being said, we'll jump back in. Let's see. Nicole's comment. I love it. I'm sorry. I said Nicole. I meant Rose. I would say focus on building your brand first before branching out. Again, excellent advice. So we have testing. We have find your niche that works for you. Don't try to jump out there with a bunch of products. If you're a candle maker, focus on candles before you start expanding your product line. That will come in time. I'm just now getting ready to start expanding my line. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I put some marble candles out there, and I've been working on those for a while. And I'm going to also take the plunge and add room sprays as well that I've been working on for a while. And my first two attempts at it, they didn't pass for various reasons. But this third one, I think I finally have a winner. So three times is the charm. All right. So take the advice. If you are on the soap side, let's talk about that. And actually, Rose is in here. So since I don't currently have any other soap makers in here, she can help me out on the soap side. There's a lot of things that, because soap touches your skin, that's even more important. And thank you, Miss Rose, for that comment. Uh, I'm going to put them out there and see how they do. I love them. I've been testing them for a while. But with soap, you're putting that on your skin. That's why I don't venture into those waters. Like I said, the most that I do is melt and pour soap because it's simple. You literally melt and pour. And occasionally I'm testing out some glitter in it, but that's going to be the extent of what I feel comfortable doing for me personally. So when you venture into soap, and Miss Rose, I'm going to rely on you for this since Jayla, Courtney, and I are candle makers. What made you want to get into soap? And I'm not going to reveal yet because you're going to be on a future episode what else that is your specialty. But what made you decide to get into soap? Because the soap makers and candle makers, boy, we're almost neck and neck. But of course, you all know we talked about, well, Robert talked about last week about cold processed soap. And the two popular ones are melt and pour and cold process because everybody loves the beautiful designs that are in cold process. But you also have hot processed soap. And I always joke with Robert and say that's for the grown makers because you're dealing with lye and things like that. And I don't want to venture into those waters because that's just not my zone. All right. So while I give Rose a second to answer, what are some of the other things that my other ladies, let's talk about how you decided on your wicks real quick while I put Rose's comment up here. And Rose said, for my soap makers out there, I was making fragrances to market to other soapers, and they always ask how they performed in soap, and I couldn't answer. So she had to learn soap making in order to answer that question. And Rose, I'm with you. Before I started making glitter candles, and I laugh when I get this question because I still get it today. And you know, I am the glitter queen. Um, do you know how to make a regular candle? Can you make a candle without glitter? So I always laugh and smile. But one of the things that I could not answer was how the glitter burned. You know why? Because I will admit this is prior to me meeting Jayla. I didn't test the glitter candle, I just put it out there because I was rushing. So I had to learn. And Rose is laughing at me. Notice I said prior to Jayla because Jayla is the testing guru and she will get on you publicly and privately. You know you should test that. Okay, sis, don't do it again. You know you need to test that. So I had to learn how to find the glitter that worked for me. Right. So I had to test all these different glitters. And while I'm on the subject of glitter really quick, and I'm gonna jump back to Rose with the soap because she's laughing at me right now. You cannot, under any circumstances, please do not use craft glitter in a candle. It will ultimately catch fire at some point. Take that from moi. You do not use craft glitter in a candle. We use biodegradable, and there's so many different types of glitter out there for candles now. Makesy carries it. It's all on Etsy. I use biodegradable glitter. Do not, under any circumstances, use craft glitter in a candle. It will catch fire. I promise you it will at some point, especially if you use wooden wicks. So, Miss Rose, switching back over to soap, what are some of the things that you have experienced in your journey making soap? and she's already with me. She's laughing with me because she understands making and selling before testing. We trust our process enough to not need to test. And you are so right, Rose. That is the number one thing that I get emails about, especially doing this podcast. You all know me. I'm not afraid to talk about it because we have to be able to laugh and learn from our mistakes. Again, if you are watching the replay, these ladies that are in the chat that you see, they are my moderators. That's why you see them here every week. And we all learn from each other. All right. And what we're discussing right now is on the soap maker side. What are some of the things that Rose learned on her soap making journey? She said that she has had soap erupt out of her soap mold because the fragrance oils caused the soap batter to overheat. Oh wow. See, that's an interesting one. And Robert spoke a little bit about that last week, to where there are different things that unless you test, you would not know about that. How about this one? Well, Rose, I'm sure you've heard this. I know Jayla's had this, Courtney's had this, and I've definitely had it myself. What happened the first time that you put too much fragrance oil in? Did you freak out? Because if you don't know what it is, you go on all the candle boards, and I see it. I just saw it on Reddit, as a matter of fact, and I saw it in a couple of the candle groups. One of the young ladies that is a candle maker, this was her first candles that she made, and she freaked out because they have oil spots all over them. So I remember those days, and I remember that feeling. Courtney says, "Oh my God, yes." All right. Also on the soap side, Rose says, I've had soap turn into jelly into the mold because a certain essential oil and fragrance oil blend caused the soap to deconstruct. So, see, these are all terms that you need to learn for your craft, whether candle making, soap making, or any craft that's out there. I'll give you another example that has nothing to do with candles or soap. What about our t-shirt makers? Do you think they just jumped out there and started making t-shirts? They didn't burn up some. They kept the heat press down too long. Cricket, for those of you that love the cricket makers, you've done something wrong and it didn't cut all the way through and you couldn't weed it properly. There's different things that happen to different makers, and we all have to learn our craft. All right. And Rose put it on the soap side. She says, thankfully, she hasn't had that happen. She has forgotten to add 4 pounds of fats and oils to a batch. Rose, I appreciate that comment because Robert spoke about fats last week. All right. And also, she says she had to let something sit for 6 months before it could be used. After 6 months, the batches were no longer lye heavy and were skin safe. So see, again, that's why I said I don't venture into the world of soap, because it is something that you're putting on your skin. And Rose, I appreciate you being transparent with this audience. Over to Jayla about my t-shirts comment. She says she makes t-shirts also, and yes, she's made some mistakes as well. Anything that you're going to learn and perfect your craft, piggybacking on what Jayla said, you've got to go through your trial and error, or AKA testing. Would you rather laugh at yourself or have a customer tell you, hey, this didn't work, that didn't work? It's embarrassing for you as a maker, and it could, depending upon the situation, it could cost you a customer. Going back to private label, if that is a private label or wholesale customer, because that private label customer has put their trust in you, that you've done all your business practices that you should be doing as a business, including research and testing, and they've put their name on your work. So keep that in mind. If you are thinking about doing private label, I want to do a whole entire episode because there are hundreds of questions about. Everybody wants to jump into wholesale and private labeling, but that is a beast of its own. It can be fun, but if you can't deliver for whatever reason, then you've got a problem. So we need to talk about that. All right, that gave Ms. Rose a chance to also give me another comment on the soap side. She said that she put a vanilla heavy fragrance oil in a soap batch, and the soap loaf darkened to a leather brown rather than being yellow and orange. And she was so upset that that happened. So, speaking of which, if you are working with a vanilla fragrance, it will turn colors on you, and there is something called a stabilizer that you need to use, or that you need to get and use. A lot of people that are new makers don't know that, and they're expecting these beautiful candles that turn a dark color. All right, so again, do your research, learn your terms, and continue to always test and research. So, for my ladies that are in the chat, keeping this short and sweet, did you all have anything that you wanted to add? And thank you all for being transparent. Rose, especially, I know you're just on your soap making journey, so you are still learning how to do that. But for my other ladies that are in the chat, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I'll give them a chance to respond in the chat. And next week, I'm going to leave it to my audience. I'm going to let you all pick because I wanted this to kind of be like an open chat for today. But for next week, what would you all like as a topic? Do you want to talk about blending? Do you want to talk about the different types of candles and soaps? And I'll give you an example. You heard me say non traditional earlier. You also have dessert candles. You have candles that have spiritual meanings. There's all different types of candles that are out there. Same thing on the soap side. They even have dessert soaps. And I love to see someone who is proficient at making dessert candles and dessert soaps. All right. So that's a topic. I was actually going to do a whole episode on the different types of soaps and candles because we can talk about that all day. And Jayla just put um, a couple interesting comments in here. And I definitely agree with what she said. Being an entrepreneur isn't always easy. Remember your why and remember that there is room for all of us to be successful. And also, her second comment is if you feel yourself having a spirit of envy or jealousy, take some time to address that. And I agree with her 1000%. I have some people that have contacted me in the background about possibly doing a podcast. And at first I was like, okay. And then I said, you know what? For a split second after that, I felt some type of way, but I was like, you know what? I'm glad I can inspire, not expire. I take that back. Inspire somebody else to start something that they wouldn't have started. Podcasting is not easy. It's a lot of work in the background, and it's a lot of things that I'm still learning, and you all are on this journey with me. So if you are encouraged to become a podcaster, by all means, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you as much as I can. And I have an accountability partner. I have a couple of them actually, and Jayla just happens to be one of them. And she has helped me tremendously and have the confidence to get up here in front of you because I don't like being on camera, believe it or not. All right. That gave Courtney a chance to put in her comment for this evening. Just because something works for someone else, that, hold on. Courtney, don't get me. You know me, I'm still learning this equipment. Just because something works for someone else doesn't mean that it's always going to work the same for you. What works for you, so what works for you, and get into your own groove. Absolutely. So basically, translation, do what works for you. And as she said earlier, learn your niche, and there's room enough for all of us. All right. I know that a lot of you that are watching the replay, you see the big candle makers out here. You don't know their journey. You only see the end result. They've put in their time. A lot of them have started businesses. They get out here, they grind, they hustle. You don't know what their financial situation is. You don't know what their support situation is. So start following some of the big candle makers and follow their journey. If you really want to know, reach out to them. I do. I send Jeff Stanley messages all the time. Hey, I'm referring some people over to your group. And that way it's about networking. These ladies that you see in here, we've established for, in some cases, almost 2 years now. We network and we support and talk to each other. All right. Jayla said pretty much the same thing in her own words. Don't put too much weight in what others are doing. Focus on your brand and your business, and you will excel. All right. And Rose, like me, she says, yes, Courtney. And she also agrees with Jayla. Again, Jayla's had her business now for over 20 years. Over 20 years. And she is not a big social media person, but she a lot of times she does it because it's a part of her business. But she is one of those individuals who was able to establish her business prior to social media, and that's how we want it to be. All right. I would like to have another discussion on a future episode or on some of the business tools that will help you get your email list going. AI, we've got something phenomenal that's out now. I'm trying to learn a lot about it myself so that I can share with you all as well some of the things that I've learned, because that might be a tool that helps you in your business. It's a big thing for copywriting. It's something that's new, that is out, but I encourage you to look at it and look into it to see if it's something that works for you. Courtney is messing with me. I'll let you all see her comment as well. She says, yeah, let's not expire anything, please. Well, except for a bad batch of soap or candles. How about that? Yes, I threw some dry humor in there, Courtney. Also, and Rose said no expiration date. No, we're not putting an expiration date on anything. All right. And think about this in closing before I let these ladies go and let you all get back to your day or your evening in some cases. You are a unique individual. And I'm going to share with you something that I am learning through these ladies and many others in the community that you don't see. I appreciate everybody's support in the background. I have my days too. I have my battles, but every Wednesday at 7:50, I know you better get it together, because you've got to cut that camera on no matter what you're going through. It's not always a negative thing. There's big things that I have in store for my business. I'm nervous about putting it out there because I had to keep, for those of you that don't know, I had to keep starting and stopping my business due to work obligations. So now I'm really able to work my business full time, and it is starting to manifest, as Jayla said earlier, stay focused. And they send me messages all the time. I get kind of sad because I'm not getting as many followers as I want for social media, which is something that I struggle with. But I have to also remember I'm really just starting and I have to be consistent. All right. So consistency is the key. Stay in your own lane. Do you. You are your brand. People are interested in your story, and they're going to naturally follow you because they're interested in being on your journey. I'm learning that myself, even as we speak today. All right. New makers. New makers. Let's talk about this in summary from all of the episodes thus far, and you'll hear us talk about this again. Please do not put your product out there until you are ready. You have a huge opportunity coming up to showcase your product if you're ready. Keyword, even if you just put one product out there. Mother's Day. Yes, it's time to start thinking about Mother's Day because today is March 1st. Mother's Day products typically come out in the month of April, which happens to be next month. So if you haven't started thinking about Mother's Day, what are you going to do for Mother's Day? You don't have to be out here with everybody else putting 3, 4, 5 products out there if you only have one that you have tested. Again, stay in your lane, or as one of my work friends says, stay in your swim lane and do what's best for you, as these ladies said earlier. Another thing, do not put a product out there unless you have insurance. We talked about it last week. There's two types of insurance that you need to have: liability insurance and product insurance. Did I say it right, Jayla? I always get tongue tied on that. You need to have two different types if you are going to do pop up events. A lot of these events are now wanting you to have X amount of dollars in insurance coverage. So it's something that you're going to get anyway, or you're going to need to get anyway, especially as a business person. All of these expenses, you are able to write them off on your taxes because they are necessary business expense. If you have any questions, feel free to put your comments below. You also are invited to join our Facebook group. We have a Facebook community group. You can join and keep the conversation going. And ladies, I'm going to ask, do you have anything else? That's all the tips that I can think of, at least for tonight. Of course, as we think about things, we can keep the conversation going in the comments down below. And as you see, I'm getting used to that. And also in our Facebook group. Give me a vote on what you would like to see next week. I will be looking at the comments so I can go ahead and put that together. Jayla, always much love and thank you. I try to keep these podcasts brief, but also get the information out that everybody needs. For my experienced candle makers, if you have a topic that you would like to talk about as well, go ahead and put it in the chat for me, whether now or in the future, so that I can start preparing those episodes. I have reached out to several people just trying to get the episodes launched, as well as suppliers. Those will probably be pre recorded episodes that you can go and watch at your leisure. So please feel free to share this podcast with any other makers that you know. If you have a guest that you would like me to reach out to, that you think is going to bring value to this audience, they don't have to be a candle or soap maker. It might be somebody that we can get supplies from, or that offers a service that would be beneficial. Have them reach out to me. I would love to interview them for the podcast. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead